Welcome back, everyone, to Deadlock Fight Night. Now, moving on to the NA side of things. I'm ZP here with DDK, and Jason cannot be denied. We tried to move his box out for a little bit, but no, he is just a permanent fixture of the broadcast. So Jason is rejoining us, and guys, NA about to begin.
Yeah, Jason's the sandwich between us now, ZP.
Feels good.
I don't understand the significance of this middle slot. I feel like I enjoyed the middle slot. I feel like I've kept it warm for you, Jason. How are you enjoying it?
Quite cozy. It definitely stinks of affliction, so you should get that pocket out of here. No, I don't know why it stinks of affliction. That's actually really bad. No, it's good.
I laughed anyway. I was just like, I'll just laugh. I'll help. I'll help the situation by laughing. It's good. It's good. It's good.
I'm excited for NA though, man. Like Hydra Nation for me has been hands down the best team in NA, and I want to find that team who can dethrone them and beat them. Will it be the Unknown Omens? Will it be TF2 Boomers? Only time will tell us.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you're wondering what in the world is going on. We're going to explain the format here at Deadlock Fight Night. Every week, we got two challenging teams in each region fighting each other for the right to fight the champion of the region. And now we're over the NA. It's going to be the Unknown Omens, a team that went the distance recently in the Flicked esports tournament up against the veteran of DFN team 4NA, TF2 Boomers. The winner, of course, going up against Hydra Nation for $1,000. Hydra Nation are back-to-back-to-back champions here at Deadlock Fight Night, and of course, they want to try and make it 4 in a row. But before we get even deeper into that, all of this, of course, is brought to you by the one and only our merch. Deadlock Fight Night is asking, though, for your help. We need you to get gooped. And to commemorate such an occasion, go over to deadlockfightnight.com and buy a shirt, maybe buy 2. It'd even be cool if you bought 3. I know Jason's buying 3, but regardless of how goopy you want to get, it helps us out a lot. So please go on over to deadlockfightnight.com and buy the dumbest shirt you've ever seen. Look, if nothing else, it's a good story. Like, it's a good icebreaker. Someone's going to ask you about the shirt. A little bit of social activity, Dan.
Yeah, can always use more of that, especially these days. But that's also the problem, because maybe our target audience is not going outside much like me. So you know, it's still cool. It's still cool because you're supporting something that is. What's that, Jason?
The paleness from all 3 of us that we don't go out and see the sun.
Oh yeah, no.
But it's good though, because you know, you guys can get in on being a part of something that is in its infancy. But you know, I intend to be here until they kick me off, and hopefully we're here for a very long time and we grow a lot, and this becomes a really, really big thing. So being able to have a piece of history when we are in such a nascent state, I think that's worth something. So with that said, one of the things that's interesting, you know, kind of pivoting a little bit into the NA matches, is that ZP, we tend to have roster mania every week.
Oh yes.
I'm kind of curious what TF2 Boomers are going to turn up today with, because they've been one of the teams that have had multiple rosters, but they have a lot of great players. And you know, Deathy is sort of the captain. I feel like I don't know if he is in the team the captain, but in my brain, I'm going to call him the captain.
Well, Jason, I've also heard rumors with Deathy where Deathy is actually just, you know, DDoSing members of other teams in DFN, because Deathy just somehow ends up as substituting every week, even with TF2 Boomers not being around. So at some point you have to wonder, is Deathy being the good-natured sub, or is Deathy just actually the agent of chaos? And you know, frankly, I'm down for the latter. You know,
Deathy's a good guy. I don't want to build him up to be this evil force, though he might be.
He has death in his name.
Yeah, it's true. I will point out, though, Zach, actually, Z4K has been replaced on the team. He's actually Salty going to be playing instead of him. So a little bit of a roster mania for TF2 Boomers. But the Unknown Omens, for all of you out there who might not recognize these players, I mean, DDK, you have to recognize Dapper, Valorant player with the Sentinels.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just like actually bringing up his Twitter, because I'm very, very familiar with Dapper. Very familiar indeed. And I'm like, is he playing this game? How much is he playing this game? I know BCJ's on this game, but yeah, to see Dapper here is really cool as well. Dapper's a very talented Valorant player, for those of you that don't know, and someone that came from Counter-Strike originally as well. So he's extremely experienced at playing at a very high level. And so, and he also brings a lot of, I would say, leadership, and sort of, he's one of those kind of glue guys, I would say, on any given team. And most recently, he was a part of one of the absolute best teams in the tier 2, as he kind of came back from having a break from tier 1. So he is someone that has been in very advanced team systems as well, with great coaching. So he is someone that can certainly I think apply a lot of that, you know, wisdom, experience to the players around him. They may not have as much to help organize things in a game as chaotic as this.
I think that's a very good point you bring up, because a player like Dapper, with the history he has of the structure of teams he's been on, is something that any team in the world could really use. I think especially in NA, which definitely has problems at the moment. No, not problems, but needs more teams playing. It needs more teams who can contest against the EU teams at the moment. But then also you look at the rest of the Unknown Omens, you do have a lot of Smite world champions, whether it's on console or PC as well in here. So they have experience of playing at a very high level as well. And of course, Sizzlicky going to be coming in from Fortnite. Like, they do have the credentials to be here and beat TF2 Boomers. But will they be able to do so in this match is the question, ZP.
You know, I do love the just absolute diversity we get in terms of where players come from here, where we've seen teams where it's like, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of Apex players, like you get Hardeki over on PS, you get random Fortnite players everywhere. I don't think we've seen a full Fortnite team, but just, you know, within the 6, you'll be like, yeah, we got some OW players, an Apex player, and oh yeah, I get that Fortnite guy in here too. Smite players, of course, showing up for the Unknown Omens. Something people are looking for, because even though I don't think Deadlock and Smite are all too similar beyond the idea of like a MOBA with a different point of view, like Deadlock is way more shooter heavy. A lot of people did expect to see some Smite players in Deadlock, so Unknown Omens sort of fill that prophecy, and I'm excited to see what this matchup is going to be, because I feel like every week, Jason, you continue to see things changing up in regards to what teams are good, what teams are bad. EU, of course, the biggest example of it, but I want to see some action here in NA.
Yeah, and I feel like we need to start seeing this as well, because the more teams you have who, or just even the more teams you have, means the more leveled up the entire region could become overall, because everyone gets better playing against each other, then eventually they get better and they continue to get better. And the thing is, I know we're really far out from Deadlock being officially released. We're probably pretty decently far out from like any sort of major or international or, you know, 100K, 1,000+ prize pool. But this is like the moment. This is like the time to really get your name out there, to really get you know, ingrained in the community, and of course build yourself up as a player. Because who knows if you're going to be a top player 6 months from now, a year from now. You got to put in the groundwork now.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, obviously, it can always go a little bit wrong if you have really bad performances, but generally speaking, more experience is better, and being able to I mean, honestly, it's not just showing your name, but actually legit getting the hours in any competitive format where you're actually playing for money is very, very different from playing stuff that doesn't really have the same stakes, playing scrims. Like, it's very, very different in terms of the environment, the experience, and what it teaches you about yourself and your limitations, and also how you interact with your teammates. There's a lot to discover and with that experience, and that allows you to refine yourself as a player, but also to better understand who you should be playing with. So it is very, very, I think it's a great point. I was thinking about this earlier. Very important. And it's very fun to see who makes their name now and how prevalent they are in the years to come.
I mean, we know from Overwatch that changed quite heavily after, you know, 6 months to a year, ZP.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing in regards to new games. And of course, Dan, you saw this in Valorant recently, too, is that you kind of go through a cycle, right? At the very beginning of a game, usually you're going to see a whole bunch of players that are known quantities from other games come in, and they will be your round one of top players. But eventually, there's going to be a set of people that, you know, oftentimes you're like 15 or 16-year-olds that Deadlock is their new game. They think it's the best thing ever, and they're going to put in 16 to 18 hours a day just nothing but Deadlock. And then about a year and a half from now, you're gonna have that new crop of players come in, and they're gonna start replacing the old guard that has been at the top, right? It happens in every game ever. But right now we're in the veterans who can break games down early phase at the top. But as time goes on, seeing what's gonna be the new talent that comes in that's like Deadlock specific and super innovative within that sphere is gonna be super interesting.
And you pointed out something, DDK, there that I really want to latch on really quickly to, is like playing at events like this, it forces you to think about the game differently, and it forces you to take it more serious. And I was actually thinking, like, because obviously you have a background in Quake, the only player I've ever known in esports who takes every single scrim they ever play as seriously as it's the grand finals of QuakeCon, Rafa. And I really want to see, you know, people treat any scrim they ever play more like that, because the more comfortable you are playing at that kind of intensity, the better you're going to play when that moment comes that you need to shine if you want to win something big.
Yeah, that's a element of discipline is is definitely something that sets players apart. It's something I've talked about quite a lot on my own channel, where I talk about performance and so on. And it's very easy when you're scrimming to not practice as you would play or would want to play when you're actually competing, because like you say, you're a lot more serious. And when you're practicing with like so many hours, it's really easy just to let small edges slip away, because you're like, oh yeah, I want to go for that extra kill, even though that's not the standard that I should be playing to, and that's not how I would actually operate within a professional setting. I'm going to do it here. But then you're creating more variance of your own performance, and you're not instilling what should be just instant reaction of the correct thing. It's not fun to do it, and it requires a lot of discipline. And that, as you say, it does really set a lot of players apart.
Well, right now we are waiting for a quick little issue with our draft system to be ironed out. Oh, as I say that, it's already fixed. So we were going to throw to a break. Instead, we throw to draft. No break,
our producer
just
tries to throw you under the bus. Like, okay, yeah, throw to break really quickly. And then the second you try to, he's like, no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, I know. I just absolutely got scammed. Unbelievable. But you know what is believable? Unknown Opens opening up with the Paradox ban, and Hydra Nation, Jason, say, we're not dealing with the Talon. Not happening. Or sorry, not Hydra Nation.
We don't know yet. We don't know. They might say that later.
Yeah. I'm jumping ahead.
But the Unknown Omens, I think for me, like, and ignore my blurriness, so you can count all the pixels on one hand. I don't actually know what their like full hero pool will be, or like who necessarily plays what. I know kind of what roles we're gonna expect them to be in, but I think with Dapper and Sizzlicky being more of like the carries, more of like the solo players, I definitely think they're gonna focus on those two because of the success we've seen them have in other titles.
Yeah, one of the things about Dapper, actually, I have to say quickly, is that in the first couple of years of Valorant, he made his name as sort of like the best Cypher in North America. And Cypher was a character that's very, very strong in these like one-on-two situations where Dapper's able to use his utility and his mind games to actually just beat people. And that was something that he was exceptionally good at. And I'm trying to like think, how can I, like, what would translate in terms of that sort of strength into this game? I'm not really sure. Paradox actually came to mind for a moment, but I don't think that we'll see that because it got banned. So, and the funny thing that we haven't said is the Grey Talon ban. The Grey Talon from the last 3 weeks going to just being irrelevant. Now one patch, we're seeing him get banned. So like, what's going on?
He went from no one cares about this hero to first ban, first pick. What I'm curious here is where the priority on McGinnis is going to be, because in the past few weeks of NA, it's been one of the more hotly contested picks. Ivy, though, getting picked up early for Unknown Omens. Are they going to go for Ivy McGinnis, or are they grab Viscus? Okay. Viscus, also another character that's had more weight in NA rather than EU in terms of just more support value, more early lane pressure. So, but now that you've gotten both Ivy and Viscus, it means that for TF2 boomers, if they did want to pick up something like a McGinnis for support, they could wait until pick 6 now. They don't need to get it early because it's super unlikely that you're going to pick up a third character in that vein for Unknown Omens. So TF2 boomers, Lash, Abrams, and Furnace, Jason, I kind of like the setup they're going for.
Bro, where the is Wraith? Like, what is going on? Like, how is Wraith not picked yet when it was banned or picked every match in EU? I know NA doesn't play Wraith as much, but like, come on, like, what is happening? Okay, so yeah, Abrams, Lash, that's a strong
button away from Jason.
line. Pocket there as well. Obviously, we saw Pocket have pretty good success considering the nerfs to Majestic Leap. It seemed like Viscus even picked so early. It's just so mind-boggling to me to see it like it did different heroes.
Did we lose Jason?
Yeah,
Yeah, he hit the beep button one too many times. Now he's just getting bleeped out of reality. You just see him just like slowly fading down. But Geist going as late as pick 5 for Unknown Omens. And look, I agree with Jason and the beep button. The fact that Wraith is so undervalued in NA is actually ridiculous to me, given what that character is capable of doing and the overall power level. But Shiv, not dead, Dan.
Yeah, so seeing it as pick 6 for the Unknown Omens, definitely interesting, because we were talking at the beginning when we looked at the changes. Hey, is this going to be prioritized still? And now we get a second Mo too. So this week is kind of nuts. This is the second Mo pick we've ever seen. We had Zanya in the previous best of 3. If you guys missed it, playing the Mo and Krill. So. All right, we're in Bizarro World. This is great, though, because I think Mo and Krill obviously has a lot of value, but against the Unknown Omens comp specifically, where do you guys feel the value is is in this pick?
Geist. Oh, sorry. I meant for Mo and Krill ulting Geist. I don't know, man. ZP, your thoughts?
I think Mo and Krill right now, more than anything else, the way people are looking at NA, I mean, yeah, you can use it to shut down a Geist. I also just think that people like Mo and Krill in solo lane right now. It's still one of the more annoying heroes to go against, and the fact that Mo and Krill has gotten buffs, and people feel you can play it a little bit more competently as the game goes on, makes it a more appealing pick. I mean, you take a look, he's going to be going into the yellow lane, even versus Viscous. I'm not happy about this matchup necessarily as a Viscous, though it is one of the better heroes to put up against the Mo.
Well, we'll have to see how it all plays out here as we get going. And TF2 Boomers, can they have another crack at the whip to try to take the title? They've obviously had a few roster shuffles just based on who's available at a given time, but definitely great players. All right, so... Okay, so we're seeing the same thing as we've seen in previous matches here, ZP and NA. Just doubling up on these solo lanes to try to just get that early edge.
Yeah, it's already lane chaos here, where you got two in the solo lanes coming out from Unknown Omens, where they said 2 to 1, 2 to 4, and 1 to 2 and 3. If you caught up with the numerology there, good on you. I barely did myself, and I was the one speaking it. But yeah, Dan, it's trying to just change up lanes to put the opponent on the back foot.
Yeah, and I mean, so far, it's hard to see kind of obviously whether it's working or not. We'll have to see how things transpire, but we'll get some aggression. It looks like TF2 Boomers will kind of fall off, play a bit more defensively there on lane 1. You've got the last solo in lane 2 against the solo Ivy as well. So very interesting early laning phase so far. And you know, interesting, you know, we've got the Shiv who's getting bullied a bit. And Shiv is definitely a hero, much like the Abrams, where we definitely feel like you need to have a pretty solid start, because if you get behind, it kind of is a struggle. You don't have nearly as much of the... What's the term you use, CP? Feast or famine?
Yeah. It's one of those cases where if you get ahead, you can dominate the game. If you get behind, well, you're not a threat at all. Also, Infernus is just hoping to stay alive. I think Infernus just bought healing right, I'm guessing, based on the health, and got super low against Geist Mirage, where either of the two characters just breathing on you at that point would have gotten a kill. So the early healing right on Infernus makes sense, but what a strange lane setup here that Unknown Omens has forced on TF2 Boomers. Now, the question is, Dan, in terms of impact, has it given them what they want so far? 7k to 7k, it's not... It doesn't really translate to an appreciable advantage just yet. It just sort of... It was a change-up.
Yeah, that is definitely what I would expect. I'd be like, okay, if they're moving around so much, at this stage of the game, it's not super advisable because you lose a lot of souls by doing so, but they're actually managing it quite well. It's not really transpired in any sort of a deficit just yet. So, okay, we get a bit more aggression, and finally a kill coming onto the Viscous. Elion is going to go down, so good work there for TF2 Boomers to get the early advantage in that sense. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to keep track here, ZP, as to whether the Unknown Omens being so active, if that's going to either hurt them or help them as things progress here.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, just by sending 2 to each lane, it forced movement at TF2 Boomers, but I think clearly TF2 Boomers is, you know, they were able to adapt their lanes in a pretty decent way. It hasn't gone too awry for them. Also, in terms of people getting farm versus not, it's not only a horrific start for Elion so far, but the danger thing is, Boink just gets dove on by Lucky. So Unknown Omens finding their moment there. But I'm curious what they're going to do to enable Panda Cat here, Dan, just because, you know, you want your Shiv to start off on a good foot.
Well, just like Lucky's might go down indeed. Nice little dive coming in with the barrage. And we've got 3 players here for TF2 Boomers on lane 3 at the moment, which is kind of nice because, you know, obviously, as you noted previously, the Mirage and both the Geist on that lane is pretty devastating, and it puts so much pressure on your Infernus, and you have to keep checks on your Infernus. You need your Infernus to be able to farm and stay in the game.
Mo might be a mole, but for a second forgot how to climb. Ended up taking way more damage than expected, but huge scorn. Just tops Tankman up. Lets him live up to the name, in fact, there.
Absolutely.
By being under that level of pressure. So Tankman gets out of dodge.
Ooh, so Deathy's on the pocket. They're looking for a gank here, going in towards that lane 1 gank and finding the Ivy. Can Peer Content survive? It looks like Pocket's in from the back there to try to sandwich the Ivy. Ivy able to escape, though, with the help of Viscous. Elian coming through as well. And
Not out yet.
it's not going to be enough. Mirror Man on the lash, able to take down the Ivy. So good gank there.
TF2 Boomers just building the full Mega Man team, by the way. Between, like, we got Tank Man, we got Mirror Man. There's a trend developing here. I'm just saying. Get suspicious as the amount of men with men in their name just keeps doubling up.
Okay, so we've got another engagement here towards the mid structure, and in the frozen shelter, that's going to be brilliant for TF2 Boomers. They're starting to take somewhat of a lead here, turning the ganks into their favor as they push the fight deeper into the lane. And I mean, this Guardian might be in some trouble here. Lots of attention from TF2 Boomers, and Benji is activated now because he was getting kind of wrecked here to buy the healing right, just as you said, but now he is looking much more healthy.
No, he's not looking healthy right now. Is Mirror Man chased down by Sizz Lucky right down lane 2. So kind of an ebb and flow going on here where people might be staying a little bit too long after having a decent fight between both teams. Still 23k to 24k. Panda Cat's gotten a moment of brevity on the Shiv, though, Dan. Just getting good farm in the solo lane versus the Abrams. And if you're Shiv, you're okay with that. But now we go down into the subway. Benji dashing on in. Burns Benedict to the crisp in the middle. So TF2 Boomers finding a moment there as they try and build up some semblance of a lead.
Yeah, and no Guardians down just yet. Looks like we might get a gank coming in from our Shiv into that lane 3. Potentially thinking about it, there is assistance actually for Shiv to deal with the Abrams. Mirage is teleported there, and in the meantime, we've got the pressure on this lane 3 tower happening at the same time. So different decisions have to be made here. You've got to choose between the tower, between helping Abrams. There's so much chaos on lane 3 here, CP, as they are looking for the kills, but looks like there's a decent disengage coming through from TF2 Boomers to stay alive.
Yeah, 7's in danger. That's a huge rotation coming in. 3 members looking for the 7. Counter rotation from TF2 Boomers after they got overloaded on lane 3. But Dapper sees the pressure coming in, able to get out. Hoping enough to save the Guardian. But meanwhile, back in lane 4, Abrams over from Mirage, who goes for the left hook, misses. And that's always the worst part, when a Mirage gets to counter chase you after you died. You're just eating damage in turn, Dan, as now we see Ivy trying to get away. 35 HP in the Dream. 18 down! Boink says, nah, not getting away.
And Shiv might be in a bit of trouble here, being surrounded by TF2 Boomers. And looks like, okay, Shiv's going to be able to get out of there, so Unknown Omens keeping things pretty competitive, but they are slowly but surely bleeding a little bit here. There's a deficit of 5 or now 6k souls, and it's slowly increasing. So they need to find some way to try to get back in to this game. And at the moment, I think it's really just about, again, keeping your Shiv competitive. And on the other side of things, again, I'm looking at Benji, seeing how well he is doing, but it's really a decent amount of souls spread across the entire team. So really nothing too much to talk about from that perspective. We do have the Urn coming up in a couple of minutes. That's going to force some fights. And I feel like we've got 2 Guardians in advantage now for TF2 Boomers as well.
Maybe a dive coming in here onto Sizz Lucky in a moment. TF2 Boomers pulling 3 over to the 2 lane. You see Mirror Man saying, I see guys. So the mark is there. The Death Slam is ready. You see Mirage in on the rotation, and TF2 Boomers now gonna say, nope, the moment for the gank has passed. Mid buff's coming up in a minute 30 or thereabouts. But it's been very scrappy gameplay so far, Dan, relative to EU, which was a little bit more organized in the beginning.
Yeah, it has been just brawls, straight up brawls across pretty much the entire map from start to finish so far. And we'll have to see which team is being more efficient. Again, TF2 Boomers are ahead in souls, and it's just because they have the 2 Guardians in advantage currently. So I would expect to see that even up should we get some Guardians returned in exchange. And that might happen, if not now, during the Urn debacle. I'm curious how the teams will handle that.
Yeah, and first Urn is a little bit interesting because, again, it gets used more as a bargaining chip to get lanes down at the same time rather than the full team fight affairs that the Urn is usually from 15 minutes on. So first Urn is very interesting in how teams will go about playing it. But things have settled down a little bit, Dan. We haven't had a full-on team fight in a while. Or you take a look at Mirror Man rotating over maybe to lane 3 right now. Kind of bouncing between lane 2 and 3, looking for an opportunity.
Indeed. Okay, so I start to have some heroes gravitating towards the extremities here. We do have a fight that looks like it might be breaking out towards lane 3 and 4. And yeah, we're getting the skirmish here over the bridge, and Kelvin going straight in with the ult, the frozen shelter to try to secure a kill here, and they might just do that. Abrams in the mix as well, but this is looking a little bit crazy. We're going to abandon ship, and Kelvin finds himself in a very bad spot now.
Yeah, usually doing the frozen shelter on the goo ball Viscous, not the best maneuver, for the reason that he's just going to continue hitting you repeatedly, which is just what happened to Boink there, as the frozen shelter caught probably the one person you don't want to catch in the frozen shelter, leads to Boink getting bounced around. TF2 Boomers lose Kelvin there. Now we get a little bit more pressure here into lane 4. Guardian about to be taken out. Guys, looking for the last decent damage, dives on in. Soul Exchange still at the ready. If you're in Furnace right now, you want to get enough damage, but you don't want to get swapped. Swap? Presumably about to come in, waiting till the last moment, goes swap on Mirror Man, and just gets melted in turn, but not before getting Mirror Man in the exchange.
And yeah, this actually works out for Unknown Omens, because, or rather from TF2 Boomers, because yeah, Benji's the one that you want to survive that. At the same time, you know, we had Tankman and Marin Crow trying to push that lane 1 in a solo push against 2 players, whilst all this madness is going on across the map. And if we look at how the towers have been exchanged, it's still in favor here. But hold on, we've got a combo with the connection onto the Ivy. Is there a follow-up for this? Can we take down the Ivy? The Unknown Omens need these kills and got to get this follow-up surely. And Ivy's going to go down. Sorry, that's TF2 in favor of TF2 Boomers. And they are going to expand their lead just a little bit. The towers start to finally fall.
Yeah, and I think you look at the Guardians here between both teams. Unknown Omens, even while that was going on, we're still able to get down 3 Guardians, secure their flex slot. So between the 2 teams, relatively even. The final Guardian, not too big of a deal. We'll probably just fall the Shiv in a moment, or even just creeps as things go about. 57k to 61k though. Boomers still nursing a little bit of a lead.
And it's a 3-player push. It was a 4-player push for briefly, but Deathy fell off to base towards that Walker on lane 1. So using the TP on lane 4 to get to that lane 1 Walker push. Is there a response? You do not want to allow this to go for free. If you're going to not defend it, you're going to take something else on the map. And so far, that is not happening. Players are spilling in for Unknown Omens to try to defend the Walker, but it's a little bit too late, perhaps. There's a lot of damage that's being done. The Walker will go down. And here comes the assistance. It's just dribbling in. And we'll have to see if it's going to work out. There is another frozen shelter. And that's going to, well, it's going to result in Panda Cat on the Shiv dying.
Yeah, and this time the ball is kept out rather than the ball being kept in. A little bit of a better response that time around from Boink. I mean, the trade that Unknown Omens got, which probably wasn't a super valuable trade, is that they got control of the urn. They did not get the urn, but they decided, okay, we're going to grab the urn, we're going to try and set up for it in turn. Meanwhile, a little bit of pressure back here at lane 4, Geist. Looking for the pocket, low HP, down. Soul Exchange wasn't up in the middle of that pocket dive, as you see Abrams now. Also under pressure in turn. Geist went down. There's going to be a trade. Oh, no way. Goes around on the charge. Abrams still alive, but caught down by the tornado.
Yeah, and that was a nice conversion. It was initially just the Abrams. The guys came in to help, but it ended up being one of those situations where you're probably thinking, I'm better off having just left my teammate to die. Oh, nice little shot there, sniping someone in the distance on the line. Either way, though, we are at a 10k difference in souls, and it might just get a little bit worse here because TF2 Boomers, they don't have this urn under control just yet. It's the Unknown Omens, but they are in a position to potentially try to challenge for this. You can see that not liking this just instant delivery of this, understanding that TF2 Boomers can have a setup. You need more teammates, and both teams are going to turn up for this one, ZP.
Yeah, I think for TF2 Boomers, the only thing that's a bit disconcerting going in is that there's no lash up. I think that's why Unknown Omens may try and force the issue, but here we go. Mo in, quick combo, and this is lucky. Nice rotation, and look, at some point for Ivy, you just gotta drop it. I think they're in the range where the urn is actually ticking damage. And yeah, I mean, Unknown Omens have been sitting on the urn for a while, but the way they've been positioned, Dan, they don't really have a great turn-in at neutral territory, especially not Lash is about to have ult up.
Oh, this is a great play, though, because with the shift pressure and viscous pressure on this Walker, that might free up the urn drop-off, and that looks exactly like what's going to happen. So using some pressure to create some space there, but they have to get out. They have to disengage without losing too much. Urn is collected, but a fight is forced. They can't fully disengage, and that's going to amount to one player going down. And honestly, that's not actually the worst result.
That was really good for Unknown Omens. They lose one, but the pressure on the Walker, TF2 Boomers didn't like it. You saw the indecision on Mirrorman, where Mirrorman was like torn between Urn and going to go help the Walker pressure. Walker pressure ends up winning out, gives the free Urn to Unknown Omens in turn, but still finding themselves a bit behind right now, Dan.
Yeah, they're doing a decent job in keeping this competitive for sure, but you're starting to feel that there is definitely that they, you know, as they were quite tentative about the urn, they just know that they don't have the resources and the abilities online to be able to deal with some of these bigger team fights, these all-out team fights. They need to have a little bit of an advantage going into one, like having a player down or something similar. As I say all of this, speaking of the urn, TF2 Boomers are making their way across for another delivery themselves, and it doesn't look like there's going to be anyone here to do anything about this.
Well, they're not expecting him to be this far. They did the rescue beam slingshot, so the timing for Unknown Omens, I think they thought they had more time than they did. That was an urn rush and a half, and as a result, TF2 Boomers just sneak that one in and add to their lead.
And it's worth noting that the rescue beam, like the pull speed, was actually nerfed a little bit, so it's not quite as extreme, but it's cool to see that it's still tech that works.
So, TF2 Boomers just slowly adding on piece by piece. Mirrorman with Death Slam up. Looking for an opportunity here, perhaps sooner rather than later. Pressure on the lane 4. Unknown Omens, for the most part, rotating to the other side. Pocket in. On the engage, looking for the Viscous. Elyon in real danger. Has to self-cube. And the rescue beam going to pull him to safety there, Dan.
Huge rescue beam for sure. Just the control here from TF2 Boomers on the entire map is outrageous. There is a push on the first lane going on at the moment, but saving the Walker for the Unknown Omens on lane 2 is definitely a priority. I'm not sure if they'll be able to do it. There's so many players here for TF2 Boomers. They'll continue to force the issue and doing some great damage there, getting the conversions on the kills on the Walker. At the same time, TF2 Boomers are going to lose their lane 4 Walker, so there is at least a trade happening here as Abrams follows things off with an explosive punch to the face. And TF2 Boomers still, despite losing that Walker, they've got massive control. My goodness, EP, they're still going in for more.
Yeah, Salty says, my HP is good. I don't care about the Guardians. Let's continue with the fisticuffs. Over and in. TF2 Boomers making the most out of this. They're looking for shrines right now. And I think the calculus here is they have enough time for shrines, not necessarily enough time for mid-boss. See if they overstay their welcome or not. Abrams' HP getting awfully low. Pressure in from all sides. Looks to charge on out. Elyon off the goo ball, out of spawn, running them on over. Sets a Vendu and says, no, Abrams, we got some unfinished business over here, right to the back. And TF2 Boomers, Dan, they overstayed their welcome, and now this might lead to them losing mid-boss. This is the classic experience for anyone's pub games if they've ever been there. You stay too long, you lose mid. Maybe Mirrorman can make a play, but it's not necessarily good odds.
Yeah, I like the idea, but you know, I don't even have time to go into it because this will be contested. TF2 Boomers not looking to give this up without a fight. They have a Death Slam to potentially get players out. There comes the Ivy Stomp as well to just ensure that nothing can block that rejuve pickup. It will go to the Unknown Omens. And indeed, ZP, they've converted, and we are tied. 113k souls to 113k souls. And it's hard, man. You want to cut the corners. You want to get the max value out of that push. But if you go a little bit too far, it's 2 steps back, 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
I tell you, Dan, in all the games of Deadlock I've watched and all the games of Deadlock I've played, I have never seen anything cost a team more times than guys staying for shrines before we leave. That is the one play call where, I mean, it's good when it works, but dear God, it's so common that teams overstay their welcome, and it happened here on the highest stage.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The action's happening so quickly. There's definitely some things we don't have time to break down just yet. But it looks like now we may have a little time to take stock of the situation. Now that Unknown Omens they saw the rejuve, they're 7k souls ahead. And just looking at the story of the map control CP, the map control was against them the entire time. They were having to constantly react to their opponents. Now it goes the other way, in part because the rejuve buff obviously helps to push the lanes, but equally they've managed to equalize the situation for the most part on the objectives.
Yeah, I mean, the entire dynamic of the game has changed. Also, you talk about hero compositions and things you don't want to deal with. Well, now we talk about the Shiv storyline. Your Shiv is now 24k, and now is in a position to be able to bully most members of TF2 Boomers aside from Infernus. That's not a great situation to be in, and you weren't in that situation until you overstayed at Shrines. So, yeah, I mean, TF2 Boomers, they're now firmly in the state of having to play from behind and deal with some things that before they could just kind of ignore.
Indeed, and now you know, TF2 Boomers having to play the defense game, perhaps being on the receiving end now of a potential push. Now the urn is a factor here as well, and it's of course actually I'm not sure. Is it going to be neutral? Is there enough of a difference? It might be a neutral urn if they pick it up now.
It's 10%. It's right on the edge. It depends on when it's snapshotted, I believe. I think it's going to be neutral. Yeah, it is neutral. It was very, very close either way. Of course, not the best news for TF2 Boomers that this is neutral earn. Rejuve's still in progress, so I feel like to an extent, there's a benefit to try and force an earn fight here, just because if the earn fight goes badly, you're not losing nearly as much as you would on a usual lost earn fight. I don't know if they're going to get there in time, Dan, though, before the Rejuve is gone.
Yeah, and the mid boss is going to be a couple minutes away as well. So you don't want to roll this situation into a free mid boss for your opponents. So you got to be very cautious here. But both teams setting up for the team fight around the drop-off point, the drop zone, and I mean it's going to come down to having a good engage. Deathy is obviously very dangerous. If he gets a good affliction off, that's something that could absolutely ruin a team fight for the Unknown Omens.
Of course, before the team fight takes place, you get a quick look item-wise here. Both teams packing one rescue beam. Salty with the early Colossus. And you don't always see that on Abrams, but I still think it's a pretty good pick. It lets you at least be a little bit more aggro, take a little bit more pressure, and pressure in play right now from the pocket. Gonna be forcing Unknown Omens back. Yeah, Unknown Omens, they don't want to turn in just yet. Not caught, though. Elion is on the top of a building with enemies all around.
Okay, so on the rooftops, the fights are commencing. And this is a little bit awkward. Again, players kind of split in this verticality in just odd ways.
That was a nice warp stone usage. He was about to get slammed into the wall by Abrams, just had the eyes in the back of his head, does the warp stone, doesn't get hit. And, you know, what could have been a rough situation for Viscus was not. Earn, though, in all of this, Dan, goes back to middle. Ivy going to be picking up again as it's going to be more posturing for the middle as I think Panda Cat right now trading out a little bit with Deathy. I don't think anything significant, though, happened.
Yeah, and Deathy has used the Majestic Leap. Obviously, the cooldown was changed quite significantly, but I think he'll be back online for this fight, potentially. We'll have to see. And, yeah, there it is. There's the Affliction coming in from above as the urn is attempted to be dropped off. It's on the point. The winner of this battle is going to pick it up. In fact, Kelvin might do so in the cover of the Frozen Shelter, guaranteeing the urn pickup for TF2 Boomers. But he's isolated from his teammates, and his teammates are getting wiped.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at what cost? The rest of your team is just getting jumped on. You're safe, you're trying to get the urn, but the rest of your team is dying, TF2 Boomers. Like, I get it, you got urn, but it's one of the most impactful ultimates in the game to isolate and/or support. And you've now chosen this over the team fight, over your buildings. I don't know, Dan, I did not like that play call. I did not like that play call at all.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, CP. There's definitely a lot of awkwardness for them in terms of picking the moment to have that fight. It'd been brewing for quite some time. And yeah, off the back of this, they can fall off onto the mid-boss. And because I believe it's going to be spawning relatively soon. So this is an enormous advantage now. Is it unrecoverable, though? I hesitate to say that it is, given what we have seen transpire in the first portion of the broadcast today. A 55k soul deficit actually not just like come back from, but they took advantage, I think, you know, briefly before losing, but still.
Yeah, the other thing that's worth noting there too, Dan, that like Boink is a pretty well-fed Kelvin relative to some of the Kelvins we saw in EU that were just full on like, no, you have it. Like, I don't need any farm, you know, 12k Kelvin, that was full support, right? So if you have 23k of your net worth, or I think 22k at the time, just focused on turning on Earn, and the rest of your team is fighting a 6v5, it's just not good. And I think decision-wise, the idea is, okay, you secure the Earn, make sure we get it, but the cost was a little bit too deep, and as a result, Unknown Omens is even further ahead now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly going to be challenging. It's not the biggest differential in the world, but I mean, based on where the game was, TF2 Boomers had so much control of the match until they overextended. And now they've been on the back foot ever since. Can they find a way to turn this match on its heels once more? We'll have to see now as the Unknown Omens are looking to gather towards the bridge. And here comes another initiation, ZP.
Initiation on the way in. Salty. Charge still looking for it. Decides Shiv is going to be the prey. Shiv, meanwhile, trying to get out. Frozen Shelter dropped by Boink. Panda Cat very, very low. Tank Man taken out. Both teams down one. Tornado in on the outskirts. She's Salty right now. Ducking and diving. Charge back up. 7 right at his flank. Anu able to take down Deathy. Unknown Omens getting the better of it here. Dan Salty gonna fall. And now Unknown Omens, you have to think they're gonna turn this into mid-boss, or actually, I think they just go for end.
Yep, they absolutely can. I think they've already done so much damage in the base. They should be able to get there, I think. Not too much here to stop them. And here we go.
18 seconds left, and that's gonna be it.
Yep, looking good for it. The Unknown Omens off the back of that overextension from TF2 Boomers. The GGs are being called. The Unknown Omens are going to win this best of one, and they're going to be up into the next match. Here's EP, and I mean, they played pretty well, but the question is, how much of it was TF2 Boomers with that overextension versus them being a better team? You know, like how do we weigh this?
Well, we got Jason here, the breakdown son, because Jason was watching the entire time, and Jason, that was scrappy from the beginning to the end. It had interesting decisions, some controversial, some not, but it was back and forth. You got to give both teams that.
Yeah, you have a little bit of me, right? I'm a little bit blurry there. Yeah, very back and forth. Obviously, you kind of hate to imagine that the overstaying for the shrines is what caused you to potentially lose this match, or to lose this match, right? We think back to the earlier match as well. We had like a mid-boss being played, and that ended up costing the team the match. Really unfortunate for them, but obviously like really well done by the Unknown Omens to kind of not give up and again bounce back when it was looking so grim, knowing the enemy team was in their base. Not easy to do whatsoever.
Yeah, great punish, honestly, especially the viscous follow through from Elion, I have to say. Actually, like making sure to capture like 2 kills on the exit. Like that's really the conversion that you need to have happen, and it certainly did. So wow, that's going to be disappointing for Deathy's squad once again. I feel like he keeps getting pipped at the post. So probably no one knows what that means. It's an English phrase, but either way, it's an impressive performance. And I got to say, I didn't expect to see to cast a Dapper in another finals.
Well, that just, it ends up happening, Dan. You get a new game, it's just like, you get faces that show up, and just like, well, wait, what's going on? I never thought we'd be seeing Boink again, but hey, you know, Boink on TF2 Boomers, you know, very veteran talent out here in Deadlock also, and yeah, I mean, honestly, this game was so back and forth. I do think the Shrine decision was probably the most impactful decision that happened in the game, both the fact that TF2 Boomers decided to go for it there, also the follow through from the Unknown Omens to make a play and turn that around, because a lot of times you still, even if you see that you can run it down, you won't necessarily have the execution to make it happen. So it was kind of you needed both TF2 Boomers to make the decision to stay in, and you still needed Unknown Omens to recognize, hey, we have an opportunity here, and not only did they take it, they ran with it, and they never lost control of the game after.
Yeah, and ZP, I think going into our Get Goop player of the match, I found it really hard to pick any one individual because there were so many great moments from so many individuals across the actual match. But I had to give it to Dapper on the 7, to be honest, because I feel like his consistent farm, his positionings, more importantly, his fights just made it so possible for them to turn things around.
Yeah, and Dapper, of course, it kind of brought to you by our merch nowadays, the Get Gooped player of the game, player of the match in this case, in Dapper. But yeah, I mean, Dapper was super consistent, Dan. Both the damage done, getting out of tight situations. Some of those early ganks TF2 Boomers tried to set up on him. Dapper's just like, nope, I'm not going to be a part of that. just solid performance. And again, you need stability if you're going to be playing characters like Seven that you rely on to be a consistent source of damage throughout the game.
Yeah, I feel like there is a lot of, we talked about discipline earlier and sort of connecting that into Dapper and just his competitive skill sets. And it does feel like, especially when you're playing this game at the high level, discipline is everything in terms of making sure that you go just far enough to get it max value, but not go too far. And finding those lines, limit testing those lines, and being very strict about it so that you're never overextending yourself, because there's so many ways to do that in this game. And Dap did a great job maximizing his farm, maximizing his value in the fights when he was present in them. And we saw just, conversely, what happens when you are trying to bite off a little bit more than you can chew.
And on that note, one of the weirdest things, but it kind of actually made sense, was when we had that shrine push happen out of TF2 Boomers, where you saw two players, and then on Omens, I think Mirage was one of them, I think maybe Shiv was the other, where they were just kind of like pushing lane 3, or I think it was lane 4 maybe,
yeah,
and they're like not backing away to like help their team. But I kind of like it because it provided a little bit of extra pressure. I think it opened up potentially another flex slot, if I'm not mistaken. And then when the team respawned, they were kind of like there to actually push them away, because they realized with just 2 of us, we're probably not going to be able to defend that. So at least got something out of almost nothing.
Well, now we have a new challenger set in stone for Hydra Nation, the Kings of North America. It's going to be the Unknown Omens advancing to take on Hydra Nation in a best of 3 for $1,000. And you won't have to wait long. It's coming at you right after this.